Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to keep going on the Rx7. Now, in the last video of the Rx7, a lot of you guys suggested that I run the oil coolers in parallel versus series. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing, but I have to go pick up all the fittings. Luckily, there's a shop called Ace Race Parts who has a lot of AN fittings in stock. They're about 40 minutes away. Got all the fittings ordered, got all the T fittings that we need to be able to convert these oil coolers over to parallel. So that way we don't experience oil pressure drop, because it's the last thing that we want on literally any car. Now, while I am waiting for a lot of the bigger stuff to come in for the Rx7, like the V-mount kit, the lower intake manifold, upper intake manifold, the other two injectors, that doesn't mean that we're not going to keep making progress on this car, because I have a ton of small stuff that we need to do. So yesterday, I didn't film any of it, but yesterday I went ahead and I relocated the fuse box that sits right here, and I've got it tucked down in here nicely, got everything cleaned up for that to make room for that V-mount setup. We got our new tires on. We've got two 55/35 18s up here in the front, two 75/35 18s back here in the rear, and we are going to have to do a little bit of suspension adjustment to be able to make everything fit properly, because these wheels are fairly aggressive for this body. They are 18 by 10.5 plus 22, I believe, so we got some work to do. We also got to clean up a lot of the interior stuff. I'd like to get the Haltech mounted up. There's one more fuse box up in the engine bay that I want to relocate today, so and a ton more. So let's go pick up these fittings, finish up these oil coolers, and then keep working on this Mazda to hopefully get it running as soon as these bigger parts show up from Japan. Bam! All right, so we have a nice little abundance. Well, not an abundance, but we got a nice variety of AN fittings here. Everything on the table is all Dash 10 stuff. We have Dash 10 line. This is the old one that ran the system in series. We've got a 90 usable line there. The two Dash 10 T fittings. I got 5 straights. Technically 4 90s, because I've got the two right there, those two 120s and 245s. So the way I'm thinking we do this is, first I'm going to take that radiator out, because we're running a V-mount and that's not even the radiator we're going to be using. So we'll take the radiator and the fans out. We'll take the fans off, and I'll put that coil radiator to the side for now. But we'll do a little piece of guy AN line coming off of the thermostat there to a straight fitting, and then we'll have that tee off to both directions. So one side from each fitting will go to each side of the oil cooler. One will be feed, one will be returned back into the system. And like everyone else was saying, the whole benefit of doing this is so that way you keep the oil pressure in the engine, because the more line that you have, or the longer the line that you have, the more oil pressure you lose. Typically speaking, I want to say it's around 1 psi for every foot of AN line, or oil line, I guess you could say. So let's go ahead and get this radiator out of here. So I'm really looking at two options here of how to route this in parallel, and I think I've decided on the option I'm going to go with. So option one is just a short little guy right there, as you can see, to a T, and then the T would go to the 2 spots. Don't really like that. It'll get cumbersome in this area. We still have a radiator and an intercooler to put in this vicinity here. So I think I'm gonna go with this option, is run 245s off here, close to this frame rail, bring them both up down here, put the T there, and then have it split off. It's central right in the middle of the bumper, so that way one side isn't favored over the other. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with right there. So I'm gonna get one more of these longer lines made up. I'm gonna get the little clamps that'll hold all the lines together. I'll get some Adele clamps to be able to hold those on the back side of that front crash beam there. And then once we get the T's done, we can start running them to the oil coolers. Now I did opt and get these banjo style fittings for the outermost, because whenever I put a fitting on here, just get really close to the pop-up and I just felt uncomfortable with it. So I got these nice set rab 10 AN banjo fittings to M22 ports. I've also got a fan put on this side, so you guys might see it down there. The fan is strictly for static. So if we're beating on the car hard, oil temperature gets hot, we can go ahead and this fan will kick on automatically. We'll wire it into the Haltech, so that, and to a relay obviously. So that way, once oil temp hits, I don't know, 230, 225, 240, maybe oil temp gets too high, that fan will kick on, pull air through only this side of the cooler. I may pick up another one of these set reb fans and run one on both sides, so that way at static, we can let the oil cool down with the fans if the car is just sitting, or if we're just sitting in traffic. We don't have to worry about too much of the oil getting too hot. So oil is like a massive thing on these RX-7s, man. You got to make sure everything stays cool. So let's go ahead and make our other line for the return side. So this is the return side that I have done now. This is the feed side. So let's get these oil coolers all made up, or let's get these lines all made up. Okay, well, I've done all that, and I'm going to go back to series. I'm going to go back to the series setup. If temperatures seem too high or pressure seems too low on series, we'll do the parallel setup, but I can't do the parallel setup right now without having the V-mount, and trying to run all of these lines in a spot that's going to clear a V-mount, it's just not working. Like, I have to actually physically have the V-mount to be able to do it. So for the sake of getting the FD closer to running, we'll worry about it. We'll make sure later. I just read a ton of forums. There's people that are running both series and parallel. Some of them say they see no difference. Some people say they see a small difference. We're gonna swap to series for now. And if oil pressure seems too low, we'll go back to parallel. So let me just knock this out. I just want to get the oil coolers done with. Okay, so we got our oil coolers pre-filled, we got all the lines done, so it comes off the thermostatic switch there, runs along the bottom of this guy down to the cooler, runs from that cooler to this cooler, from that cooler back, goes up to the housing, goes to the oil pump. So what I'm actually going to do now is I just want to turn this thing over real quick. I do have oil in the engine for two reasons. A, I want to see if I can get oil pressure built, and B, I want to ensure that that starter back there works, because I haven't tested it, and I guess if I'm going to test it, let's just test it right now. Let's just do a quick test. Fuel injectors are disabled. I also want to do this just to ensure that we have no external oil leaks, because I've seen a couple rebuild RX-7 videos where people go to rebuild these things and there's always like a couple external leaks. So I'd rather catch that now than before we actually go to start this thing for the first time. So like I said, no injectors. Yeah, we've got no fuel going to the injectors. No spark plugs, coil pack. We have spark plugs, but no coil packs or anything like that. So it's not going to try to start by any means. We're just going to try to kick it over a little bit. I'm going to have my hand on the kill switch though, just in case. It's not even turning over. I want to check the starter. I had high hopes. Woo! 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 Did you hear fucking how good that thing sounded? Pretty hyped to actually hear the FD turnover on its own. It did need a little bit of assistance from a screwdriver. It seemed like the first time I did it, it was a little bit stuck. I found a ground wire on the passenger side from the old ECM that I regrounded. I mean, that could have been one of the issues because the first time I did it, the starter could have just been stuck. Keep in mind, a lot of this stuff is sat for like 10 years now, so, you know, it spins over freely. Compression sounds beautiful. There's no oil leaking out of this thing. So dude, it's like a newfound motivation for the RX-7. So, woo! Oil coolers are all tidied up. Oil's in the car. Oil pressure's built for the most part. We'll rebuild oil pressure before we actually go to start the car. Oh my god, dude, there's so much more little stuff. I'm just trying to get all the little crap done. You know what I mean? So that way we're not stuck waiting for the little crap once the big crap shows up, because once the big crap shows up, it's just putting the big crap on and starting the car. I've been working on a bass tune too, so I don't know. Let's do some more stuff though. I want to get this thing going. So like I said, we have a lot of small stuff to do. Now, the RX-7's paint isn't the best, okay? The clear coat's fading. It doesn't look the greatest, but for the meantime, I'm just going to keep it silver. I was debating wrapping it, but we'll just try to clean up the paint as much as possible later on. But because of that, I wanted to get these new badges because the one on the rear is missing. It fell off when we were towing it back up here because, as you can see, all of this crap it's not even sticky anymore, man. It's just like hard. So we got these nice Ineos, I don't know how to pronounce it, Eros something. They're the Japanese ones, so let's toss those guys on real quick. These guys are all swapped over, and I will say those ones look way better. Now, after like cleaning up the paint behind there, I think I can save some of the paint on this RX-7. Some of it, not all of it, because I'm trying to hold off on repainting the car for now, just because dude, it's so much money. We'll do it later. So I think I'm gonna try to just save the silver. I also decided to throw these guys on. These screws are on there temporarily, but I don't want these pieces getting broken, damaged, lost, because I have just had these guys kind of floating around everywhere. So I figured I'd at least just toss them on for now, so that way they don't get damaged, because that's the last thing that we want. Now, I just placed the order this morning for the excessive lower intake manifold. So it's set in stock when I bought it, so hopefully it ships out in the next like day or so. We can get that excessive manifold in there. We will Cerakote it like we did everything else. We'll swap out the stock one for the excessive. We'll get 4 injectors put in there, and then we can permanently get that guy on there. The thing that I like about the excessive that is different of the stock manifold is the excessive has all of the emissions stuff deleted, all the excess ports, everything you don't need. So it'll be nice to get rid of all that stuff. So I also just hopped online and bought the Chase Bay's AST delete for this car. I had the Petit Racing swirl pot thing. Dude, there's nowhere to freaking put it, especially with the V-mount going in here. So, and I was like, from reading forums, a lot of people just delete the AST altogether. So that's just what we're gonna do. I got the Chase Bay's one. It's the -16 AN because they're out of the 1.5 inch slide-on hose, so it's no big deal. We'll just weld on a -16 AN fitting onto our radiator when that comes in. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into the Haltech software, finish setting up this ECM, finish assigning inputs, outputs, DPOs, all that stuff, so that way we're that much closer. I'm still working on building a base map. I'm doing a lot of like learning from HPA to figure out how to tune rotaries, so I'm either gonna blow up this rotary or it'll run. So I've got the Haltech set up enough to where once we're ready, the car should fire right up. I'll probably still have somebody check over my map just to make sure, but everything's looking solid in it. I don't want to show you guys the map yet because I don't know if it's going to work. If it does work, we'll go over it later on, but I'm trying to learn Haltech tuning more. I was able to make the base map for the most part on the 17 STI to get it started, so I feel like I can do the same thing with the RX-7. So all the sensors are calibrated, all the injectors are set up, stage 1, stage 2 injectors, pulsation, flow rate, fuel density, air temp sensors, coolant temp sensors, everything should be calibrated. I'll do more checks later, but fuck, dude, I want the RX-7 to run, but there's like so much like little shit. Like I sit here and I show you this engine bay and it looks like it's almost ready to run, and some people are asking like, is it gonna start yet? Like I still need the power steering cooler, I still need the upper intake manifold, which aren't even made yet, they're just on pre-order. The V-mount kit, the radiator, we have to modify the radiator, we still need to make intercooler piping. I literally never run these, but I figured if I'm gonna run one of them, it's gonna be on the RX-7, and I've had that thing sitting around for a while, so went to the shop and grabbed that. But it's like all this stuff adds up so fast for this car. Like for example, that lower intake manifold that I ordered this morning was $700. The upper intake manifold is another $850. The power steering cooler is another $350. So it's like, and I ain't made of money. This stuff takes a little bit of time. I did, however, get in the Wall Bureau 525s for the STI, and we got a new exhaust for the WRX, but I'm gonna rip all that polish off there, or all that little burnty tip boyness, and just polish those out. That is all I've got for now, you guys. I can't do, there's really nothing else I can do on the RX-7 until parts come in. It's kind of at a point where it's just a waiting game, unfortunately, but it's all right. We'll get the RX-7 there. I'll probably continue to do some small stuff on it. I'll probably clean up the paint off camera and a couple other small things here and there, but once that AST Elite comes in, the V-mount kit from Geddy, the upper and lower intake manifolds, and the other 2 injectors, we should be ready to rock and roll with this car. Get it running, go through an engine break-in cycle, get the engine ready to go, throw it on the dyno and make some power. I have no idea what this car will do for power. That SXE 660, I think it is for that turbo. 6 injectors, it'll do something, but I just don't quite know what. So probably gonna put the RX-7 on hold, jump over to the WRX for a little while, and jump over on the STI for a bit. So with that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. If you liked the video, you know what to do. Go ahead, hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver sign, whatever color it turns for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be, put it in one of these corners. No idea which one quite yet, but with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies. Woo!